Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the potential for some pretty severe weather across parts of South and Southeast England through the afternoon today, and especially into the evening, including the risk of some pretty strong wind gusts and even a tornado or two as well. And this will be quite an in-depth video, so lots of kind of details and that kind of thing. But I'll start off now by just giving you an overview of what areas are at risk using this graphic that I made about an hour and a half ago. So as you can see, the blue zone is kind of the general area at large, which could see some severe weather this afternoon. And as you can see here, showers and thunderstorms could become strong to severe during the afternoon and evening. Squally winds, hail and an isolated weak tornado can't be ruled out in this zone. And then that's on top of kind of the threat of torrential rain, lightning, that kind of thing. So generally storms moving through this blue zone, and not everywhere within the blue zone will see storms, but it's this area which seems most at risk, at least to me. And then the red zone is the more conditional but also more severe kind of risk area, and in the red zone we could see a line of storms which are more organised developing during the afternoon and evening, bringing the risk of some severe wind gusts locally, so in excess of 60 miles an hour, and even threat of a tornado or two, which I'll get into more detail in a bit later. And also I just want to say, kind of quick disclaimer, even though I'm talking about tornadoes today, the threat at a kind of single location, so for example your house or like your school or whatever, is so low, it's almost zero. So it's really not worth kind of worrying about, oh, there's going to be a tornado today. It's just kind of saying that the risk is there, that somewhere in this zone there could be one or two tornadoes, and that's kind of all it is. So don't worry, but that's just kind of disclaimer out of the way there. So starting off by kind of getting an overview of the setup today, going to use this water vapor imagery, and as you can see here on the kind of key on the bottom, the green and white colors are representative of more moist air, and then the blue and orange colors are representative of more dry air. And as you can see here, we've got a little low pressure system spinning quite nicely towards the UK, moving fairly quickly now, and it's got a warm front. You can see the cold front there, where we've kind of got all that green air, and then also we're kind of getting an occlusion starting to develop here. So that means we've got a triple point, which is where we've got an occluded, warm and cold front meeting. And if I can pause this here, let me see, sorry. If I can pause this image here, you can see that we have the low pressure center here, cold front down here, warm front along here. So our triple point is likely to be, I mean, it's hard to say exactly, but it's likely to be somewhere in this sort of zone. And this triple point is going to be an interesting focus for storms, because if I show you this radar here, you can see we're starting to get kind of convection develop in the channel near where that triple point is likely to be. So the triple point is likely somewhere in here. We're getting storms and convection starting to develop, and because we've got a lot of wind shear, which is the difference in wind speed and direction at two different points, so for example the ground and 1 kilometer, because we've got a lot of wind shear within the lower levels of the atmosphere, what could occur here is that as this triple point kind of develops through kind of parts of southwest England into the Midlands later on, is we could see the risk of some squally winds, so kind of 50-60 mile an hour gusts, and even tornadoes. And in the past we have kind of got similar situations where the triple point, so the warm cold occluded front meeting, has been a focus for kind of tornadic development there. And just to quickly show you something interesting corresponding with that, the Aurore model, which is the French high resolution model, does kind of suggest this possibility as well, with a line of kind of storms associated with the triple point here moving through the Midlands, and on this particular model run bringing the kind of threat of those strong winds, where it kind of got that small area in purple there indicating the risk of squally wind gusts locally. And just another quick disclaimer when using these model charts, this is not an exact representation of what's going to happen. It's the model's best guess at kind of the future weather conditions, and because it's a model, it's not perfect, so don't take this too literally. It's kind of just giving you a representation of the kind of scenarios which might occur, and this scenario here kind of matches up quite nicely with our observations over here, so indicates that this does have kind of a severe risk in this general region over towards the afternoon. And I didn't include it in this graphic because the confidence was quite low, but now we're seeing it on radar, so kind of just that's worth being aware of in this kind of, in these regions, worth being aware of, that there is kind of a local severe risk, though nothing really to worry about. Then the next kind of significant risk starts to develop through the evening across south and southeast England here. And I'm going to represent to you, I'm going to show you this risk by looking at something which initially looks a bit complicated, but don't worry, it's not actually that bad. And this is the vorticity chart at 500 millibars. So 500 millibars is the height of the atmosphere, where the pressure equals 500 millibars. And that's usually around 6 kilometers up. So this is kind of a view of the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And you can see the mid-levels here, we've got a nice low pressure system represented by those kind of closed circular isobar there. And then you also kind of might see these colors and think, what on earth is that? So these colors are kind of showing vorticity, which is a fancy way of saying spin of any fluid. So it could be water, in this case it's air. And one way you can kind of visualize this is if you've got a stream and you put a rock in the stream, what happens behind the rock is you kind of get lots of small eddies and vortices in the water. This is kind of the same thing here, it's just with air. And this is very useful for identifying areas of rising and sinking motion in the atmosphere, which is pretty much the kind of basis of all severe weather. So any severe weather is going to be to do with rising motion. So this is a pretty useful chart here. And as you can see, this one here is valid for the for 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And as you can see here, we have a kind of cluster of purple and blue colours approaching southern England, and accompanied with that we also have a shortwave, which is kind of a little bend in the isobars, as you can see there. So we've got a shortwave, which is kind of a small piece of energy in the mid to upper levels, and that's going to move through into parts of southern England during the early evening. So there's our shortwave now, you can see it really nicely there, and this is for 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock we're going to have a lot of rising motion across southern England, and what that is going to lead to is the development of some storms. So here is the UKV model, the high resolution Metofos model, and same kind of caveat as before, do not take this literally, it's kind of the model's best guess, but actually this kind of the forecast radar on this model is quite in line of what we would expect given this other upper level air pattern, and that is these storms starting to develop in association with that shortwave moving through there. So storms start to develop and then they move to the northeast across kind of parts of central southern England towards the London area there, and then perhaps kind of organising into a bit of a line, as you can see here, stretching down into parts of kind of Essex and Kent there. So this is a kind of interesting scenario because I've got that line of storms possibly intense and possibly becoming severe. As you can see, we have those kind of white, those white and kind of pink colours on the top of the rain scale, indicating high rain rates, lightning, possibly strong winds, and that's kind of why we've got this blue zone here. And then also notice how they turn into, lost my tabs here, but notice how they kind of turn into a bit of a line across parts of Kent and into Essex there, like I just said earlier, and that's for 11 PM. And also I'm going to show you the French model because it's showing something kind of interesting as well. If I just get this clicker to work, sorry. But you can see here, notice how it also shows a similar thing, kind of storms developing across central southern England during the evening, moving to the northeast, but then particularly across parts of Kent there. Notice how we get more severe kind of storms, more organised, those darker colours, and if I show you the previous one, you can see same thing there. You kind of get more organised lines, kind of bands of storms there. And in this particular scenario, I took a sounding from this location right here, that black dot, and a sounding is kind of a 3D view of the atmosphere, how the wind changes, temperature changes, everything. And you can see something particularly interesting on the top right here, which is our hodograph, which is kind of a representation of how the wind changes with speed and direction as you go up into the air. And this is pretty good for showing you kind of low level wind shear, which gives you a good indication of how the storm will behave. And particularly interesting here is you have this big curving shape of the red line, which indicates a lot of wind shear in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And what this means is that any storm in this environment does have the potential to develop a mesocyclone, which is a rotating updraft, and even the risk of tornadoes. So in this particular scenario right here, this would kind of be bringing the risk of some pretty strong wind gusts, pretty strong wind gusts, and even the tornado threat, which is why we've got that red region here. And I would say one kind of caveat of this model is that it does tend to sometimes overestimate the kind of strength of the low-level winds. So likely we're not going to see as extreme profiles as this, but even if it was less than that, that's still kind of plenty of wind shear for storms to get organised, and perhaps just enough for a tornado as well across parts of Kent and southeast England. And you may also be wondering, in terms of instability, what's the situation? So you can see here we have fairly decent amounts of instability, actually up to around 1,000 joules per kilogram of Cape across kind of the English Channel, and a lot of this instability is actually as a result of the colder air relative to the warm channel, and we've got above average sea surface temperatures in the channel right now, so perhaps the models will be even underdoing the amount of Cape and also how far it gets inland, which is a similar situation to last year on the 23rd of October. The models didn't have a great handle on how much instability there was. It turned out there was more than forecast, and the storms got pretty severe. So potentially we could be seeing some severe storms across parts of south and southeast England today, with that combination of strong wind shear and instability, as you can see there. And just to finish it off, the Toro, which is the kind of official tornado research body in the UK, has actually issued a tornado watch, which is pretty rare, indicating across these zones we do have the threat of tornadoes, as well as wind gusts to 60 miles an hour, lightning and hail. So that's kind of in line with the other stuff that I mentioned here. But anyway, that's about it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe.